All right. Good morning. Good morning. So we are back. Uh, we are continuing with Derech Hashem. We are in the first chapter and we are at part five. How
Wow.
how was your vacay?
Oh my gosh, it's too long. We need a separate Zoom call for that.
Okay.
I feel, have so many complaints, but they were so beautiful. Like I feel spoiled complaining. So all the complaints are stored inside here
Okay.
and ready to explode. But that'll be a different session.
I actually had a question that I asked. I did a session after Yontif with one of the groups of ladies that I work with, and I
Okay.
asked them each if they can tell me one thing they were surprised by in a positive way, because it's so easy to, as you just mentioned, list off all the things that can go wrong and all the negative. But once in
Hmm.
a while, or there's always something beautiful or something magical that happens. And it's interesting to pay attention to that because that kind of is it's a sensory experience. It's something we feel in our body. A lot of times the critique is something we feel in our head. And the frustration, when we feel the concept of frustration, it's a disconnect between the mind and the body.
Yeah.
There's energy there that has nowhere to go.
Right. It's
So
true.
when we think of like something magical and we're like, okay, what was one magical thing or something that like surprised us? And it could be, and it's usually in the most simple form. Like it's the simplest thing.
This thing. Okay.
Like the sugar was sweet.
The sugar was sweet. The coffee in the Philippines was
Yes.
so good. I didn't even need sugar.
Okay, there you go. Remember when I made you a coffee the first time in my house when you came to visit
Yeah.
the first time?
I was like, what is this?
Hmm. Yeah. So
Wow.
okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, the people there were so friendly. I wanted to take home with me all the homeless children.
Oh,
You see how I threw in like a
yeah.
negative?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to. It's like a burp.
I
It's
hear. I
has to
hear.
come out.
But it's okay. It's fine. Everybody has their process, but I'm happy that coffee made you happy.
Yes, it did every morning. No, not one fail. Uh,
Amazing. Amazing.
so okay, great. So let's start.
Yeah,
I'm
we can
probably gonna
start.
have to step out around 9.
No problem. We're
But I'm
gonna keep
happy
it
to be
short
here.
today. Yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna keep it short and simple. And yeah. All
All
right.
right.
So I'll let you begin if you'd like.
Oh, yes, I'll start. Okay. Part 5 or paragraph 5. It is likewise necessary to know that God is absolutely simple. Oh, going back to the simple, like we were just talking about, having no parts to him. At the same time, all types of perfection are present in him, contained in his being without being separate parts of it. We can try to understand this by observing that the human mind has many different faculties, each with its own area of activity. Thus, for example, memory is one domain, desire another, and imagination still another, and none of these faculties impinge on the other. Memory, for example, has its own domain, as does desire, and desire does not penetrate the domain of memory, nor does memory enter that of desire. The same is true of all the mind's faculties. The human mind can therefore be said to have structure and is not simple. Should I continue or you want to break?
Um, I think you can continue because I need a little bit more context.
Ah, okay. All righty. God, however, does not require separate domain for each of these powers. In fact, he does possess these powers, which in man are different from one another. But for God, we can say, does desire and is wise and capable and is perfect in every conceivable way. On the other hand, God is actually one. These phenomena being present in him without being separate parts of him, they're being included in him by virtue of his perfection. All types of perfection exist in God, not as phenomena, which are separate from his absolute oneness, and it is impossible that God not possess every perfection.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Continue?
You know what? Yeah, let's continue.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I feel like? I feel like I'm reading Pasuk and a Rashi and Chumash out loud to the class. That's what I'm
Yeah.
having.
Well, I think that's what we are doing technically.
That's true. I'm waiting for an explanation because like
Yeah.
this is like a little bit brain teaser for me.
Yeah, me
Good.
too.
Okay.
But
Uh,
I have a little bit of context in a second.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Admittedly, this is something far beyond the grasp of our understanding and imagination. Duh, I'm confused. And there hardly exists a way to express it and put it into words. But he's doing it.
Yeah.
Sorry, my little commentaries. Our intellect and imagination are only capable of grasping things bound by the natural limitations created by God. Since these are the only things that our senses can detect and convey to our minds, we are incapable of conceiving.
I'll continue that
Paragraph.
sentence.
Yeah, you can finish the rest.
Yes. These different qualities as a single simple essence. Um, yeah, as a single simple essence, since among created things, there are different separate concepts. So he has, I'll read the next bit because it seems like it'll clarify. I'll just finish 5. We
Okay.
begin our discussion, however, by acknowledging that God's true nature is beyond comprehension. Um, no inference can be drawn um, to the creator of to the creator from what we see among created things. The nature and the essence of the two are not the same at all, and it is therefore possible to draw any parallel between them. This, however, is also among the things that we know from the the tradition discussed earlier. It can also be um, verified from the laws and principles of nature in itself, being not being not exist being not exist. Okay. Unbound by the laws and limitations of nature, it must be impossible for this being to cease to exist or have any um okay. I'm gonna just leave it at this point. Finally, this being because he's just kind of breaking this stuff down. Um, this being must be the true cause of everything that exists and happens, unless all is this is true. The existence and continuation of things, as we know them, would be utterly impossible. So that's like the end of number 5. So I think what he's trying to do here is establish um, a couple things. So in the Hakdama, which is the introduction, he kind of broke down what we're going to break down. And part of that is just establishing and acknowledging that like the difference between humans and God, because I think a lot of times people are like, well, what's the difference? Especially when it comes to other religions or people are trying to relate to God, they try to relate to it in human form. So I think he's trying to show the difference in separation, whereas in with us, everything has like its compartments. Like
Yeah.
he's saying, our memory and our desire are two separate things. They operate differently. But when we think of God and the sense of like when we're trying to understand the differences, right? So it's like when we think about like what's the difference between a parent and a child, even if they might have the same genetics, right? There's an age thing. A parent is born at this year, the child was born at this year. Whatever it is that differentiates the child and the parent is really important to be able to communicate because I feel like nowadays such a big part of the conflicts, like if we think about even gender or abortion and or any of these conflicts of like who's right and who has authority, the way people display or portray certain things depends on how they understand the construct. That's why even with like interior designer, when I wrote interior designer, when I was trying to explain like how the body works, I was like, I need to find a set of rules that we can relate to understand how to organize that interior. So coming back to this, he's just establishing here the differences because for some of us, we're not sure. We've never actually been taught this in school, or maybe it's just been like a pass by of like, oh, these are the differences between Hashem and, us as humans. So what he's saying here is there are the distinct differences is that with Hashem, it's like one flow. And again, I'm not going to be able to describe it the way he says it, but it's it's in the simplistic form where it all works together. And as humans, we're compartments. What's really interesting, so while you were reading, I was listening to a shiur by Rav Ben Zion Mitzafi. I didn't get the full notes because I want to go back and go through it, but he was talking about just energy and the body and where things lie in the body. And he says like the ruach, which is like the spirit, actually lives in your liver um, and heart. He says the neshama is one second. There's like a neshama in the moach, which is in the brain, and then there's malchus in the brain, and then he breaks it down as in like I want to get the entire context because I feel like it would be so helpful for this. So basically, what he was saying when it comes to like spirituality, there, and again, I don't want to quote it wrong, so I'm gonna make sure to get the entire list. I kind of just started with the list because it seemed like a complex talk, but he was just saying how like there are pieces of our spiritual existence that live in different parts of our body, which is fascinating.
That's so interesting. Well, when you said the spirits in the liver, I was thinking spirits is alcohol and it kills the liver.
Wow. Well, I guess the wrong spirit kills the liver.
Yeah. And what does the liver do? It cleanses,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So your spirit can cleanse you,
Yeah.
or maybe being connected to it can be cleansing. And also alcohol numbs it.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting connection.
I,
Um,
yeah. Good.
no, I was just like the only thing I really got from that reading because for me, for my brain, it is so complex. You really, really made it so simple. Like I feel like you should write the book.
Okay. I mean,
Really-
again, we're just tapping into it from
Yeah. But what I got from it is that Hashem is perfect and he created limitations, so he doesn't have it.
right.
And the limitations that he created, or the ones he's describing, is so contradictory for us. It's literally splitting us into so many parts that we're walking around like confused people on this world, trying to make sense of things. And then the whole life is just based around trying to figure ourselves out, where our neshama lies, how we can take pleasure or desire, right? Which is like a whole different animal. And then the other aspects of ourselves. Like we keep on walking through life, letting different parts take over and then just making messes of things. I mean, like, I'm sure there's a point to this.
I think, yeah, it's as simple as we're here to bring things together. Like we're
Right.
here to unite. Like like the whole point of this experience is to first Makadish everything, like to bring everything to Kodesh, as in we as Jews do the same things that everybody else does, but what the goal is by being a little bit more mindful, we're elevating it into its
Right.
spiritual capacity as well, like saying a bracha before eating or something like that. What we're doing is we're just elevating it ever
Yeah.
so slightly. So it's interesting because it's like when you think of like there, yes, we are so many different components, but I think the daily process is to connect.
Right.
And the beauty is that if there wasn't that many components, what would be the purpose then? So if our purpose is to connect, there needs to be the pieces to
Right.
connect.
To connect.
So like when he talks about simplicity, also like when he started number five, um, 1 second, he mentioned God is absolutely simple and has no parts, right? Like, but we are those parts. It's interesting because it's just taking that time to like acknowledge also, like, for a lot of us, um, like as you kind of put it, where you're like, things are all over, there's, you know what I mean? When you understand that that is part of the purpose and that is part of
Right.
mission,
It's
it
like
makes it easier.
half the Sarah. Yeah.
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 So it's not like, oh, I'm all over the place. It's like the concept of women being needy. We talk about women being needy, and it's just like if we didn't have that component, then we wouldn't need men.
Whoa.
So having that neediness, you could look at it as, oh, I'm inferior or I don't have this a purpose or whatever. Or you could say like, what's wrong with me? Am I so insecure? Or you could step away and say, oh, it's like saying hunger. If we didn't have an appetite or hunger, we wouldn't eat.
Right.
So I think this part of knowing and understanding that we are made up of parts and the daily avoda is to bring those parts together. And literally, that's everything we work towards in life. Connecting with others, connecting with ourselves, connecting with our life, connecting with nature, connecting with God. It's all about connection. And every single human is working towards some kind of connection. There is no human that's like, oh, I'm going to disconnect. If they're disconnecting from one thing, it's to connect with something else.
Right.
There's never somebody that's like, oh, I want to detach completely. And again, and that's also the difference between when we talk about like we've mentioned like let's say Buddhism and all those kind of things and like as a yoga teacher as yoga teachers like people will ask like what's the difference, and the thing is in other practices it's about detaching, and for Yidden, for Jews it's actually a very materialistic experience.
Mm.
It's opposite of it's not okay, let me just remove all of this from my life. It's how do I learn to use this to the best of my ability.
Mm.
And
Okay.
I think the thing is for a lot of us, if we don't understand how to use something, then we'll abuse it, right? And a lot of people in life will say like, "Oh, I'm just not going to go there."
Right.
And then they miss out on life.
Mm.
So when we kind of have this education curve where we're like, oh, I'm gonna learn about this. I'm gonna educate myself a little bit in whatever area you're curious about, right? Instead of saying, I don't know how to do this, I'm gonna just check out, it's let me learn about this, maybe make a few mistakes, or many, and then um,
Right.
the outcome is usually a lot more pleasurable. And that's why as a nation we've been able to evolve because you can't sustain something that has isn't there has to be a genuine enjoyment
Yeah.
and pleasure, and satisfaction to the experience. And I
Right.
think it's by learning how to use it, it's not only by detaching. Obviously, the detachment is really important. Like, going through yoga training, that stuff was incredible. It taught me so much about life, but it also taught me about priorities. And I feel like learning this takes it to the next level where it's like, yeah, learning about all the different components and then just knowing that the day-to-day practice is bringing it together, uniting it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like how you said about the elevating. I feel like um because that is like the common denominator, to all the parts, like bringing them into one direction. So even if there's so many different parts of ourselves, they're all going in one direction. So that's like the flow. Um, so I like that.
And it's also like a great thought. I did this as a quote in Nourish to Flourish. I think it was like 2 months ago. It was just like every space you walk into, like, how are you going to leave it better than when you came? And I
Right.
think that's really, if we go into every experience doing that or asking ourselves that question, you went to Thailand. You left some love there for the children that are
Oh, yeah. Oh,
oh,
Philippines. I'm like,
oh, the
Thailand. I thought
Philippines. Sorry,
Thailand.
sorry.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Philippines.
You went to Thailand.
Yeah. But I didn't see any homeless children there, so maybe I wasn't in the
So
right
sad.
neighborhood.
So sad.
But I'm saying just going
Yeah.
in itself, and like sometimes we see something and it does create a certain sense of, it causes us pain. But again, then it's just like it's another I think it gives us another like just a dimension.
Yeah.
And it's like we've experienced something and hearing somebody talk about it is not the same as experiencing
Yeah.
it.
I mean, I realized like subconsciously, I do that. And I'm like, how do I leave places better? I go into the grocery store and I'm always, wherever I go, I have to do something to feel good about it. I hate going to the grocery store. I hate doing laundry. But when I do something that makes me feel good, like have a conversation with someone, um, just give someone a compliment, a real one, not a fake one. You know, it just lights my fire, that's for sure. It just elevates the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think then that it just makes our day better, because if we realize that, I'm saying, and again, sometimes we need the reminder that we do live in an ecosystem. So we should always be working towards something that's giving back.
Yeah.
It's not about it being selfish. It's about a flow. There are pieces of things, but it should all flow and connect. So
Yeah.
there's a give and take.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful, Esther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we'll keep it short today because you had some stuff going on.
Yes, I have to.
And
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm probably gonna have to deal with something in a few minutes.
And it's
Yeah.
always, I'm saying after Yontif, it always takes a little bit of time, but I think by next week we'll be up and running and
Yes.
go really, really deep.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can open
Bring
up.
bring your scuba diver gear. We're going deep.
We're going really deep, but we can open it up for questions if anyone has any.